This is Ryan Pierce, host of Completely Serious. Thanks for listening to the following broadcast on Public House Media. Hey, it's Baxter Colburn here from Public House Media. Did you know that we just added a store here at Public House Media? No, I'm not talking about a grocery store where you can go buy apples or bananas or peanut butter, which are all fantastic, especially when peanut butter's on all of those. Anyway, we've added a store here at Public House Media so you can not only come and represent your favorite podcast network, but also represent your favorite shows as well, too. Just go over to thephmedia.com and look in the top right corner where you'll see the button that says Store. Click on that and you can search through all of our great products. Or if you go to our Facebook page, Public House Media, you can see on the left-hand side a tab that says Store. All of our products are listed there as well, too. It's the new Public House Media store. You don't want to miss it. It is fantastic. Buy some of that great swag to support your favorite shows and to support Public House Media. Check it out today.
This is Julianne Condia, host of Rewritten, here on Public House Media. Thank you so much for listening to the following broadcast on Public House Media. Once you are done with this episode, I hope you'll come check out my show, Rewritten, where we will talk about you having limitless potential and can rewrite your story at any time. No matter your background, your past, or current situation, you can have the type of life you crave. A new show comes out every single Monday. Don't forget to subscribe on iTunes so you never miss an episode of Rewritten. Thanks again for checking out the following broadcast on Public House Media.
The latest headlines.
The Houston Astros, the defending World Series champions, got better adding Garrett Cole.
The insightful interviews.
Rick Saratella, NFL Draft Bible. With how much emphasis is put on the position, yet how many over the last couple of years we've had questions. Why do we put such an emphasis on drafting a quarterback number one overall?
The bottom line is there's not enough good quarterbacks to go around. And I think with the new CBA, it's really a low-risk gamble now. If you look at the playoff teams, the common denominator, good quarterback play.
The hottest takes.
I think the guy to blame is the one guy who hasn't left yet. I think Russell Westbrook is one of the bigger problems in Oklahoma City.
Can all be found on Press Row. Broadcasting is part of the Public House Media Network. Here's your host.
It doesn't matter what your name is.
Christian Heimall.
We did it. We did it. We qualified for the 2026 World Cup, right? That's what this means, right? That we've got... No? We didn't. We still have to qualify? Oh, boy. Welcome on Press Row, everybody. Christian Heimall here with you, broadcasting as part of the Public House Media Network on this Thursday, June 14th, 2018. So happy to have you here with us, as always, each and every week. You can find us on Apple Podcasts, Google Play, iHeartRadio, Spreaker.com, Stitcher.com, TuneIn Radio, and, of course, you can also find us on thephmedia.com, where you can get some awesome Press Row gear. I've got my Press Row coffee mug sitting right here next to me, as always. I've got a nice little Press Row long-sleeve T-shirt, baseball T-shirt. There's some great gear out there. Go ahead and check all that stuff out. A lot to get to today. We're going to have, as mentioned, the 2026 World Cup has been awarded to the group that is the United States, Mexico, and Canada. Isn't it nice when we can all get along? What does that all mean for, the future of U.S. men's soccer? Who knows? The World Cup beginning today, really this weekend, kind of in earnest. Does the announcement of this help your interest in the World Cup, despite the U.S. not being in it? We're going to talk to Roger Gonzalez, soccer writer for CBS Sports, in just a little bit. Get his takes on all of it. How, maybe if you are one of those, stalwart, I guess, U.S. fans who's a little upset that their country's not in it, who else do you root for? How can you find the right team to root for? And what are you going to be watching for with this World Cup? So we'll touch on that in a little bit. A lot of news in the NFL with mini camps, mandatory mini camps opening up over the past couple of days, and a couple of other headlines. Your listener questions, as always, you can always submit them to us throughout the week. It doesn't have to be just for the show. It can be just for fun as well. Find us on Twitter and Instagram at PressRowPHM. Facebook page is Press Row by Public House Media. And, of course, you can always email the show, pressrowphm@gmail.com. Find me on Twitter at Chris Heimall, ChrisHeimall. We're going to touch on the whole LeBron James thing in this first segment. Don't worry. I'm going to touch on that. Not a lot. Not going to go in-depth because, listen, there's only one person in the world right now who knows what LeBron James is going to do, and that's LeBron James. And until he tells us, this whole speculation crap doesn't really do any good for us. So I'm going to get to that in just a moment. But the announcement yesterday of the World Cup being awarded in 2026 to North America, the U.S., Mexico, and Canada, with the U.S. supposed to be hosting 60 of those 80 games and then 10 more in Canada, 10 more in Mexico as well. Final going to be played at MetLife Stadium outside of New York. It's tremendous. Possibly expanding the team to 48. It will be 48 teams expanded. First time that a three-nation bid has been given the FIFA World Cup. This is huge for American soccer, and it's better, I think, for world soccer fans simply because when you look at where the World Cup is here in 2018 in Russia, Qatar in 2022, this is the first time in a very long time that FIFA, as a world organization, has made a smart business decision that didn't look corrupt, didn't sound like a backroom dealing. You've got 23 cities across the 3 continents that are ready to go. You've got so many stadiums that you don't have to build. This thing could happen tomorrow. This thing, legitimately, the 2026 World Cup could be ready to go in the United States tomorrow, and in Mexico and in Canada. You've got all those places that stadiums are already built. It's not like Russia with the Olympics, where all those stadiums and Olympic Village is a wasteland now. Brazil, same way. All those stuff they had to build. You're not going to have to do that like you are in Qatar right now. But this is tremendous for world soccer, and it's even better for U.S. soccer and for North American soccer, because what you're going to have now is you now have a generation of players in the United States right around maybe anywhere from 5th to 8th grade right now. We'll throw freshman year of high school in there, that are excited about playing soccer. We've seen the numbers go down in football, in American football. We've seen the numbers go up elsewhere in basketball and in soccer and in lacrosse. And now those kids at 10, 11, 12, 14, 16 years old, maybe even freshmen in college, 18 years old, they now have that goal of representing their country in the World Cup in the United States in 2026. That's huge. U.S. soccer is undergoing a tremendous overhaul. Obviously, as we have seen with Ernie Stewart, the new GM, a new head coach, a new manager. You've seen them in friendlies recently without their stars in Christian Pulisic, Josie Altidore, Michael Bradley. It's undergoing an overhaul that's been much needed. And this is great. We're going to talk with Roger Gonzalez about all of this coming up in about a half hour or so. Really excited to talk to him, maybe about 20 minutes, but really, really excited to get his take on what this means for U.S. soccer. And listen, I'm one of those guys who I keep an eye on U.S. soccer. I don't follow it, staunchly. I am a Liverpool fan. I'm kind of rooting a little bit here for Egypt and Mo Salah in the World Cup. I'm also of German descent and Italian descent, and the fact that Italy's not in it either means that I'm all in on Germany. But I'm not one of those ones who, the U.S. isn't in it, I'm not going to watch. This is the one time. This is the one sport that the entire world plays. The entire world. As great as the World Series is, as great as the Super Bowl is, as great as the NBA Finals and the Stanley Cup playoffs are, there's only one sport that the entire world plays, and that is soccer. And so this is a great moment. U.S. fans, whether you're fans of soccer or just Americans in general, should be relishing this opportunity, because in 8 years, you're going to see, and who knows who they are. It's not going to be Ronaldo. It's not going to be Messi. It may not be Harry Kane. It might still be Neymar, fortunately. You're not going to see the guys who currently are, but the next wave of superstars in soccer across the world are going to come here. And it's going to be a lot of fun. So I'm really looking forward to it. Trying to decide, maybe right now if you go watch a game in all three countries, that'd be pretty cool, wouldn't it, over that course of that month in 2026? So talk to Roger Gonzalez of CBS Sports in a little bit about what that means for U.S. soccer, what U.S. soccer should be expecting going forward. As mentioned, they've got a lot of issues they need to fix. There's a lot to talk about with U.S. soccer, and we will do all of that with Roger Gonzalez of CBS Sports in a little bit. All right, mention the LeBron James stuff. Look, I understand. I get it. He is the best player in the biggest sport in the country. And where he goes shifts the balance of power in the NBA. It matters not just to him, not just to his family, not just to every other team in the NBA, to Vegas. Literally the odds of the NBA are waiting on what LeBron James does. Here's the important thing to note right now. He's technically not a free agent. He's still under contract with the Cleveland Cavaliers. Yes, he has to opt in, and he has until the end of this month to do it. But there's a lot of opportunity. I know we've all been talking about it. This is for him to go after, continue chasing the ghost of the GOAT, LeBron James. Michael Jordan. This is still him going after that. And where he goes next, it may not be the last stop that he has in his career. He may play for another team after this next contract. He's 33? 33 years old, 15 years in the league, wants to play till he's 40 so that he can play with his son, who's about to start high school. Or is going to start high school in a couple of years, but this is the most important. I hate to use the word decision because we always have that connotation with LeBron James, but this is the most important move of the NBA offseason right now, is what happens here. There's still a lot to be decided. Kawhi Leonard is going to be interesting. Kyrie Irving has made some headlines in Boston. Paul George, obviously, is going to be big. But here's what I will say. The more that I look at this, the more that I try to dissect all of it, there legitimately, in my mind, are only two possible places for LeBron James to go. Two. Only two. One of them is nowhere, to stay in Cleveland. And there's a couple reasons why. Number one, $35.6 million this year. If he leaves, no team can offer him more than $30. He could sign a Supermax deal, 5 years, over $205 million with Cleveland. More than $50 million more than what any other franchise could possibly offer him. That's one reason why I think he stays. Number two, his family, his desire to end his career in Cleveland, which he has said multiple times. You can take that for what it's worth. His kids, as mentioned, are about to start high school there. He's got his foundation there. That personal stuff. The idea of being labeled the biggest villain in NBA history, bar none, if he did vanish again from Cleveland. That's another reason. So that's two. The third one, and this is maybe the most compelling one. Most teams, there's one team that really could make this happen without having to trade many pieces. Most teams, in order to get LeBron, would have to trade away a bunch. Similar to how, and you would basically deplete your entire supporting cast if you were to do a sign and trade, unless you were able to go to a place that could bring in another star, already has a good core. And I'll get to that team that I think it is later. But much like the way Carmelo Anthony completely depleted the Knicks when he demanded that sign and trade out of Denver, he had no talent there to help him win a championship. So those are the three reasons why I think LeBron stays in Cleveland, and I really do believe that. The only other place where I could legitimately see him going, listen, Warriors, no. You said no, just stop it. The Rockets, he'd have to trade a lot of people to be able to afford him. There's not much room under the salary cap. Clippers, same deal. The one guy he would want to play with is probably DeAndre Jordan, and they'd have to not bring him in, not bring him back, if he didn't pick up his player option. The Heat, Dwayne Wade, as much as I know he wants him there, too old, and you have to trade a bunch of your young guys to be able to get him under the salary cap. 76ers are interesting because they could make some small moves to get that max salary to bring in LeBron, and I know that Ben Simmons is represented by the same group that LeBron is right now. But it's still, I don't think there's enough there, and you're really going to put a lot of pressure on Joel Embiid to stay healthy, and Joel Embiid has played something like 80 games in his whole career, and LeBron played all of that in one season. Spurs, no, you have to trade way too many pieces there. The only team that I really see it is the Lakers. As much as, oh my God, as a Boston Celtics fan, that boils my blood thinking of LeBron James in a Lakers jersey. But to go to L.A., to go and continue to be the business mogul that he wants to be, the entertainment and media mogul that he wants to be, they've got the cap space to not only get LeBron, but bring in somebody else like a Paul George. You could trade Lonzo Ball and get rid of all that drama. And then you've got, Kyle Kuzma there. You've got, let's see, who else would he have there to be able to work with? You got some pieces there with LeBron and whatnot. So that's the one that kind of makes the most sense to me. Outside of leaving Cleveland, the one that makes the most sense to me, outside of staying in Cleveland, it means to me the Lakers. Because when you think about it, the Lakers are not only the team that has the best in terms of cap space availability, the one franchise that's out there that is in that media market that he would want to be in and would need to be in to be this stud that he wants to be. It's got that history, that brand recognition. Lakers, Cowboys, Yankees. The three most popular franchises this country's ever produced. Bar none. So, as much as I don't really care, as long as it's not in Boston, and I know there are ways to get there, and I know some of you have asked that, and we'll get to that later, but I still think he stays in Cleveland. I really do. And if not, the Lakers really seem like the most logical spot just because of their ability to do it. But I don't know why he would go to the Western Conference and lose to the Warriors in the Western Conference Finals instead of the NBA Finals. So, plenty more to get to when we come back. Some NFL news, some other NBA notes as well. Roger Gonzalez of CBS Sports talking World Cup in just a little bit. Your listener questions all coming up. You're on Press Row, broadcasting as part of the Public House Media Network.
This is Sam Kirby, host of Cinema Stories here on Public House Media. Thanks for listening to the following broadcast on Public House Media. Once you're done with this episode, I hope you'll come check out my show, Cinema Stories, where we hang out and just talk movie and TV news and reviews, and it's awesome. A new show comes out every single Tuesday. Don't forget to subscribe on iTunes so you never miss an episode of Cinema Stories. Thanks again for checking out the following broadcast on Public House Media.
Want to be part of the show? Go to Facebook and search Press Row Podcast-Public House Media. Or find us on Twitter and Instagram at Press Row PHM. You can also email the program, pressrowphm@gmail.com. This is Press Row with Christian Heimall, a Public House Media podcast.
Back on Press Row, Christian Heimall here with you. Broadcasting as part of the Public House Media Network. Thanks for listening wherever, however you may be doing so. Spreaker.com, Stitcher app as well, TuneIn Radio, iHeartRadio, Apple Podcasts, Google Play, or thephmedia.com. Roger Gonzalez, CBS Sports, is going to join us here in just a few minutes to break down this, the World Cup. It's here this weekend, starting in earnest. Finals coming up in a little bit, but U.S., North America, Canada, Mexico awarded the 2026 World Cup. What does that mean for the future of U.S. soccer and for the fandom of it amongst some of our Patriots, our fellow Patriots here? A couple other headlines I want to get to. We mentioned the LeBron James stuff, and that's pretty much all I'm going to say about it until we actually know what's happening. But Kyrie Irving making some interesting headlines earlier this week, saying that his focus is on health, redemption, and not an extension with the Celtics. And you can't really be upset about him if you're a Celtics fan. I mean, listen, he's got an option he's eligible for an extension this year. 4-year, $107 million extension if he wants it. However, if he waited until the end of until the end of next year, he'd be eligible for a max contract worth over $80 million more than that. So closer to $200 million. Which, from a business standpoint, it's smart on Kyrie's part. If you're Danny Ainge, I don't know if you need to be upset about it. I don't think this is reason to maybe trade Kyrie. There have been rumors about, a 3-team trade with the Cavaliers and the Knicks to get LeBron to Boston, Kyrie to New York, where he said he's wanted to go play. But listen, this makes complete sense. I mean, of course, everybody's going to ask about it because this is what we do. We don't, Kyrie still has to prove that he's worth that money more than anything else. And if he signed the extension, I think he'd be saying, I'm not healthy, let me get my payday now. The fact that he's not going to sign an extension, that he doesn't want to sign an extension, he wants to, perform next year, be eligible for that max deal, and re-sign with Boston, potentially, where you get the most money, that is good news if you're the Celtics. Because you're going to get Gordon Hayward back. Kyrie coming back is huge. I think this is a good thing if you're the Celtics. That's the way that I think about it. If Kyrie is taking that extension this summer, he's saying, I'm not healthy enough, give me my money, and then I'm out. The fact that he's not taking the extension, I think, shows that he feels healthy enough, he feels ready to go. So that to me is good news if you're a Celtics fan. So I don't know why anybody would want to worry or freak out at all about that. So other news in the NBA, Raptors have their new head coach, Nick Nurse, from assistant to head coach, finalizing contract deals, replacing Dwayne Casey. Won 2 championships in the G League, was a coach of the year as well. It's not a bad move for Toronto. I think it's kind of the logical move there. They don't have any cap space, really. They have no draft picks this year either. But they have, they bring back Lowry, DeRozan, Ibaka. Jonas Valanciunas is back for a couple of years now, and they don't have anything to really play with here, but I'm not surprised at all by that. Makes a lot of sense. Good on Dwayne Casey, of course, for getting the Pistons job. So kind of an expected move there. Yeah, don't really know more else to say on that one. Let's see. Want to get to some NFL stuff because, of course, Jody Meeks also exercising his option with the Wizards there in the NBA. So still, this is the interesting part. This is the, I don't want to call it the busy season, but it's like it really is. The NBA has become a 12-month-a-year sport now with the off season. So, and this is what we're going to be talking about for a very long time for the rest of the summer. Really, is who goes where and for how much and what trades possibly could come around. So we'll get into a whole bunch of that as the summer continues with a number of different people that we can talk to. You're on Press Row. Christian Heimall here with you. Broadcast is part of the Public House Media Network. Don't forget to head over to thephmedia.com. Check out all of the other great podcasts. Get yourself some awesome gear to support your favorite podcasts. Help continue to grow us and make us one of the fastest growing sports podcasts in the country. NFL training camp, mini camp opening up this past week across the country, and some interesting headlines coming out, mainly with regards to injuries and to injured quarterbacks more than anything else. Deshaun Watson for the Houston Texans, one of the exciting young players last year before that terrible knee injury, practicing without a brace this week, which is awesome. Great to see that on Tuesday. Was working through some drills and being able to do whatever he was doing. 7-on-7 works, trying to get back for the season opener. It'll be great for the Texans. They were a really fun, competitive team with Deshaun Watson there. Same with Carson Wentz. The torn ACL, been doing 7-on-7s. He's been doing every individual drill. Seems pretty excited. Still a little bit limited, but seems that he's optimistic to be ready at the start of the season. And what's interesting with the Eagles is they're in like the best possible situation. I mean, obviously, as defending Super Bowl champs, you're going to be in a really good situation. But the fact that they could legitimately not have their starting quarterback and still be the best team in the NFL with Nick Foles, they're in a win-win situation. Say, Carson's back healthy week 1, great, and he's the Carson Wentz we saw prior to the injury last year, awesome. Say he's not, and Nick Foles goes out and has 2 great games in the first 2 weeks of the season. That's added trade bait. That's tremendous. That's a great value for this team. So you can't really be, I don't want to say upset, but you can't really be, you can't be in a bad mood, or you can't be, Eagles fans should not be rushing Carson Wentz back. Let me put it to you that way. They are in a really good position right now. They are having a great offseason, enjoying the Super Bowl still. Earlier this week, it was kind of interesting. I don't know if anybody saw a tweet. Mike Sealski of Philadelphia News tweeted this out, that the Eagles weren't done celebrating their championship. The other day, they were all over at Doug Peterson's house. They rewatched the Super Bowl. They had their own Super Bowl viewing party, which was it's kind of cool. It's kind of neat. So Carson Wentz seems to be back on his way to recovery as well. New York Giants wide receiver Odell Beckham Jr. cleared to practice after this past week. Prior to minicamp and getting some individual drills, running some routes. You watch some of the video. He's been trying to do his one-handed grabs and stuff, but I mean, not doing great there. Still trying to get back into game shape, I guess would be the right way to call it, but still been tremendous, and it's great to see. Listen, the NFL is built off of its superstars. They do better than almost anybody as a league in marketing their superstars. The NBA I don't count because so many of these athletes do it themselves, but the NFL does a tremendous job marketing its athletes. And Deshaun Watson, Carson Wentz, Teddy Bridgewater, who a lot of people think might actually be the starting quarterback for the New York Jets in Week 1, Odell Beckham. Let's see, who else would be on that list? Guys like Kareem Hunt, Rob Gronkowski. The NFL does a great job in advertising and promoting its stars. And so you want them to be healthy, obviously. It's pretty important for that to happen. Especially at the quarterback position, as we talked about with Wentz and with Deshaun Watson. Andrew Luck showing some signs, some great positive signs earlier this week at Colts minicamp, throwing a football for the first time since October of 2000. Was it October? Let me see here. Yeah, since October of 2017, throwing in front of media, about 20 to 25 throws. Said he felt good. Said he said that he will absolutely be playing in the Week 1 opener. He says, no knock on wood, I'll be playing. I believe it in my bones. Now, granted, he was throwing a college-size or a high school-size football, but still, I mean, that's great news for the Colts considering where they were a year ago. They felt the same way, optimistic that he would play, and then he didn't take a single snap, miss all of last season. So it's great to see that. I don't know what this means for him right now. I think it means he's on track. He looks great. He looks healthy. Looks strong as ever. Looks absolutely yoked, which is scary to look at. But using a different style of football, the grip is a little bit different right now with a college-sized ball, but it's pretty much the same weight. He has been throwing weighted footballs, though. It's just good to see him actually do that. It's good to see him at the facility throwing a football, feeling comfortable about it. I know he said that he had a mental block trying to actually throw it, which, I mean, you can understand that. I mean, I would imagine so. It'd be a little scary the first couple times. You don't want to hurt anything, especially considering you've missed, something like 20 straight games or whatever it is. So it's good to see that, that he has actually been able to do something here and be able to possibly get back and be on the field for Week 1. That would be huge for the Colts. Same way it would be for the New York Jets with Teddy Bridgewater. The Texans with Deshaun Watson, the Eagles for Carson Wentz. You don't want to see that kind of talent injured. Even Sam Bradford in Arizona. I know they drafted Josh Rosen, but he says he feels pretty good. was out there working with a little bit after his injury last year and just trying to make things work. You don't want to see that kind of talent go wasted. That's the most important part. And fortunately, if everybody stays healthy, it's better for the NFL. It's better quality games. It's more exciting. It's more fun. It's great stuff to talk about. So one other note real quick in the NFL, and then we'll get to Roger Gonzalez, CBS Sports, talking World Cup soccer here in just a little bit. I thought it was really interesting to see some headlines out of the New York Jets minicamp that Sam Darnold, their number 3 draft pick, their coveted draft pick that they were so excited about and fans were raving about that they got their guy, may actually start the season on the inactive list. Rich Cimini of the New York Daily News, I believe, ESPN, Rich Cimini, saying that it makes no sense to have Darnold serve as the backup on game 1. In his article, you can see it. It says, if Teddy Bridgewater is the opening day starter for the Jets in Detroit, it makes no sense to have an experienced and capable quarterback such as McCown as the number 2. It makes sense, A Bridgewater-McCown tandem gives them a better chance than Bridgewater-Darnold to win that game. I don't think it's even up for debate. It would be a tall order for a rookie to come off the bench in Week 1, especially in a prime-time game. I could see Todd Bowles sticking with Bridgewater-McCown or McCown-Bridgewater until Darnold is ready to play. At that point, he can make the jump from number 3 to number 1. I tend to agree with Rich Cimini on that. I think Josh McCown, unless Teddy Bridgewater is blowing people away with his ability and that knee's healthy, I think Josh McCown should be the number 1 starter on opening day for the New York Jets. And if Sam Darnold isn't ready, he shouldn't be the backup either. But still a lot to get to. NFL minicamp, it's a lot of fun. It's a lot more to talk about, including the World Cup, a different style of football. Roger Gonzalez, CBS Sports, is next on Press Row.
I'm the Greg.
And I am Dave Show.
We host the Greg and Dave Show on Public House Media.
Thanks for listening to the following broadcast on Public House Media. Once you're done with this episode, I hope you'll come check out our show, The Greg and Dave Show, where we talk about strange, bizarre, and sometimes just downright quirky news stories that you may not have heard about.
A new show comes out every Wednesday. Be sure to subscribe on iTunes. And hey, thanks for listening to the following broadcast on Public House Media.
Listen to every episode and get the latest shows sent right to you. Subscribe to Press Row on iTunes, Google Play, iHeartRadio, Spreaker.com, and Stitcher.com. Or visit us online at www.thephmedia.com. This is Press Row with Christian Heimall, a Public House Media podcast.
Welcome back on Press Row. Christian Heimall here with you all on this Thursday in June as the World Cup gets set to begin in earnest tonight. No U.S. men's national team, of course, but to help us break it all down in case you're like me who still will watch the World Cup and will find a way to either root for Germany or whoever it may be just because, Roger Gonzalez of CBS Sports, he joins us now. And Roger, first off, thanks a lot for the time.
No problem. Thank you for having me.
And you had an article out earlier this week. Who should you root for with the USA out of the World Cup? Before we get to all the favorites and all of that stuff, what is this World Cup going to be like, or what should we kind of expect from a global view and then from a U.S. view without the Americans in it?
Yeah, I mean, from a global view, it's far and away the biggest competition in any sport. I mean, this is, when you look at the ratings and how it compares to the World Series and the Super Bowl, I mean, it beats them all combined. It blows them out of the water. It's something we obviously have to wait every 4 years for. It takes years to qualify for the competition, and it's obviously for most of the world just the biggest moment that they wait for every 4 years. When it comes to the American perspective, it's certainly challenging for fans of the men's national team without having them there. But still, it's going to be the best players in the world, an opportunity to see some new countries that have never been in the World Cup, and it's a tournament that always provides countless memories from all these amazing matches.
It's been kind of interesting to watch how Fox has tried to really publicize this to U.S. fans, through partnership with 23andMe or whatever it may be. So how can U.S. fans who maybe only watch once every 4 years get really excited and get really into this competition starting this weekend?
Yeah, it's certainly challenging. I mean, when you think about, the U.S. and had they qualified, Christian Pulisic would have been one of the most talked about young players entering this cup, and it would have been a massive experience for some of the young guys. And so, I just think it's one of those things where when you're watching these matches and seeing teams, especially like Mexico, the rival of the U.S., and it's going to be one of those things where for some U.S. fans it's going to be a little uncomfortable, I guess, to watch maybe, and to realize the U.S. isn't there. And there's a lot of people who are just trying to think, okay, who should I root for now? What team should I support since the U.S. isn't in it? So that's a big challenge for a lot of U.S. fans who want to have a rooting interest. And in the days leading up to the Cup, they're trying to figure out who that team should be.
Yeah, I know for me, and we're speaking with Roger Gonzalez, CBS Sports here about the World Cup. For me, it always was, after the U.S. got knocked out, being of German and Italian descent, rooting for one of those two teams. So with no Italy in as well, Germany seems to be the favorite. It almost seems as though that's kind of a logical pick, I guess, if you're from an outside perspective looking in.
Yeah, I think that's always one of the easiest ways to make a pick is the connection. Maybe like you said, of your heritage. Like for me, for my family, my wife's from Argentina. We've long been supporters of the Argentine national team, and so that's who we're all rooting for specifically. But that's definitely a good way to pick a team, is to kind of find that connection, whether it's through your heritage or maybe it's a specific player that you really, really like. Maybe there's some big Tottenham fans that love Christian Eriksen and they want to support Denmark. Iceland's a big one as well. They've really been campaigning to get U.S. fans, even companies from Iceland, trying to reach out and get people behind this team as they enter their first World Cup ever. So I think it's important to kind of find that connection to a team. And it could just be liking their jerseys. You could think Nigeria's jerseys are awesome and then I want them to do well. So it's hard to find that level of connection, when it comes to the U.S., if you're a big USA fan. But certainly trying to find some type of connection is one way to kind of find a team to support and to maybe enjoy the tournament a little bit more.
With the growth of Premier League football and Bundesliga here in the United States, how much do you think that will kind of help draw eyes to the World Cup despite the U.S. not competing?
Yeah, I mean, I think it certainly could. I just think it's part of the whole growth of the sport, the interest in it. I mean, I just remember years ago, just people who I knew, friends who had no interest in the sport whatsoever, didn't know much about it, and now they're, waking up on Saturdays during the Premier League season at 7 a.m. to watch these games. And so I think it just shows, one, obviously the exposure the sport is getting, but also some of the coverage that's being done correctly. NBC's, done a good job with their Premier League coverage, and it's really drawn some fans into what they're offering when it comes to Premier League programming. And so I think with the World Cup, though, it's cool to see some of these, obviously the big name talents. People will have their eyes on Messi and Ronaldo and, Mo Salah, but there's obviously some really young guys as well that are going to be future stars. And I think another thing for USA fans is, there's some really big upcoming friendlies for the U.S. in September, Brazil and Mexico. We broke the news at CBS Sports that Colombia and Argentina will be playing the U.S. in October. That's another reason to watch these games. Watch Argentina, watch Colombia, and see the type of players that this men's national team will be facing after the Cup in the fall.
Thought it was interesting. You guys over at CBS Sports, you went and did a FIFA 18 simulation and actually had Belgium beating Portugal, correct? 2-0 in the final there. So outside of what the video game has told us, what are we looking forward from an actual on-the-pitch competition style? Who are the favorites and who are some of the names we should be watching out for?
Yeah, I think when you look at the Belgium and Portugal thing that we had in the sim, those are two teams that I think on paper have quality, but I don't. Neither of them convince me right now. I think when you look at the top tier, it's Brazil who looks strong and have Neymar back, and he's looking good. Germany obviously is reigning champions. Spain is a team that's got a lot of quality. Just maybe some concerns as to who's going to be their striker. They've got three options right now, and it's hard to really see who they're going to go with. And then outside of them, France I think is the team that on paper has maybe the strongest 23 players in the tournament, and whether they can compete remains to be seen. And then elsewhere in South America, I really think, Argentina with Messi, it feels like they can win the tournament or they could be out in the round of 16. I think Uruguay has a really strong shot to make it far in this cup. They're just loaded, especially up top and in central defense. And I think there's some dark horses too. When you look at a team maybe like Colombia that I think has some really nice players and an experienced manager and a team that is hungry to go a step further than they did when they made the quarterfinals in Brazil 2014.
We're speaking with Roger Gonzalez of CBS Sports here. The World Cup beginning here this weekend. Of course, the United States not in it, but the U.S. men's national team, Roger, still, though, the last couple of friendlies, especially the one against France with a 1-1 draw, they've been getting some positive reviews after that last friendly, especially considering the result against Ireland a couple weeks ago. What have you seen from this men's national team over the last few months and few matches that we've been able to watch?
Yeah, I really like that Dave Sarachan has given these young guys a chance and not calling up guys like Michael Bradley and Josie Altidore, just giving these young guys the opportunity to prove what they can do. I'm the first one to say, that a result in a friendly means very little. I mean, we saw once they beat Bolivia 3-0, there were these, rising expectations against a Bolivia C team, and then they go out and lose to Ireland days later, and people are wondering, what's going on? And I think we often jump to conclusions just as American sports fans and need to kind of be more patient and realize this is going to be a process. I think with the France game, as I said, I don't care much for results, but I think you can't really deny what they were able to do. I mean, the U.S. the U.S. didn't dominate, but they had some decent spells. I mean, they hung together defensively. Stefan was fantastic in goal. I think, they kind of, in a sense, spoiled France's sending off party. And, France had their chances. They weren't as clinical as they usually were, but I just think playing against teams like Ireland and France, playing against a superior lineup, I think overall the U.S. is probably stronger than Ireland, but when you're playing these youth guys, it's quite the difference from all these experienced internationals. But going up against these teams that are more experienced and simply usually better, I think that's just one really nice way to improve these young guys and give them an opportunity to see what they can do against top competition. So I think this is all just positive for U.S. moving forward as they try to get back on track and figure out what's next when it comes to finding a head coach and getting ready for qualifying. And there's a lot of work left to be done, but I think they're doing the right things.
You mentioned Michael Bradley and Josie Altidore. Is it even more, I guess, kind of optimistic for U.S. fans to see the type of results they're getting without those two players? Yeah,
I mean, the Ireland game, the U.S. was able to take the lead, and obviously in the France one as well. And I think, on paper, though, it really felt like the France A team against the U.S. U23 team.
Right.
So I think, I expected France to put 4 or 5 past the U.S. So I think Stefan was a huge reason why, and I think there's certain things you could point at to, that should make fans excited. Stefan in goal, as I said, but Weston McKennie in the middle of the field, I think he's somebody who is a rising star, has the potential to make like a Pulisic impact, not necessarily when it comes to scoring goals or assisting, but just being a top potential player in his position. And so the U.S. is in a good spot, but I just think moving forward we have to be really, really patient because it's going to be a long road. We don't know who the coach is that's going to come in and their style and how things are going to change. So there's a lot of things in motion and a lot of things that could be different here in the coming months, but there's some reason to be excited, especially with these young players that have looked pretty sharp.
It's strange to think that just a little less than a year ago, the disappointment of not qualifying, the complete changeover and overhaul of U.S. Soccer from a national standpoint, and now North America, including the United States, awarded the 2026 World Cup. What do you think of the United States, Mexico, Canada having that joint tournament here in 8 years?
Yeah, I think from speaking to people at U.S. Soccer, the days leading up to the vote, it's all about campaigning and reaching out to these federations and just trying to convince them and get their vote. And I think, we saw that evaluation by FIFA for each bid, where the United 2026 vote scored a 4 out of 5, and Morocco scored a 2.7 out of 5, and they just feel that overall that the North American bid is much more prepared to handle such a massive competition. This is supposed to be, unless they make changes to the Qatar one, this is supposed to be the first tournament with 48 teams in the World Cup. So it's going to be quite different. I think the U.S. is in a good spot, and to have the tournament in 8 years when some of these young players will be in their prime or entering their prime, it's incredible. I mean, there's something really better than being able to have the World Cup, to be able to host it. U.S. obviously has experience once before in 1994, and to get it again, dream come true, and I think it would really help the sport continue to grow.
Last thing I want to ask you here, we're again talking with Roger Gonzalez, CBS Sports. If there's one person, or if there's folks listening to the show today who are on the edge, haven't decided on if they're actually going to watch the World Cup at all, I'm a U.S. guy. I'm not going to watch if the U.S. isn't in it. What would you tell them to try and persuade them to at least tune in and watch something here this World Cup?
Yeah, I mean, I would feel bad for somebody who doesn't take in some of these games. I mean, you've got some unbelievable matchups in the group stage. When you look at England against Belgium, Portugal against Spain, there's going to be it's always a tournament that creates these unbelievable memories, unbelievable goals. I think for anyone, you look at all these other countries that didn't make the World Cup. My dad's from El Salvador; they haven't made it in a long time, but everyone there is going to be watching it. The country's not in it, but they're going to be watching every single game there, and as a lot of countries in the world will be. So, I think it's for a lot of U.S. fans, this is the first time, for the younger fans, the first time that the team has never made the World Cup in their lifetime. And so it's certainly different, and there's some who are going to be bitter and maybe jealous of these other teams that are in it. But, it's a tournament that you wait every 4 years for. I can't imagine somebody deciding not to watch it because the U.S. isn't in it. It's, like I said, it's the biggest competition in sports, and it's going to be another amazing tournament. And it's just a reason to get excited as well that, in 8 years it'll be back in North America, and it's important to, to kind of really just participate in watching it and enjoying everything that it offers, because it's truly a special competition.
Roger Gonzalez, CBS Sports. You can follow him on Twitter at @RGonzalezCBS. We appreciate the time. Thanks so much, and hopefully we have you on a little bit later on in the tournament.
Anytime. I'd love to. Thanks.
It's Roger Gonzalez, CBS Sports. And listen, I mean, I agree with him wholeheartedly. Look, I'm upset the U.S. isn't in it, but I was always one of those ones who would still watch, whether it be Italy, Germany, or Australia a few years ago when they that was 12, 16 years ago almost now. It's a lot of fun to watch. It's the world sport. It's a beautiful game, and the chance that it could be here in 8 years, and we may find that out during this tournament, says a lot. So I hope you do tune in at least and enjoy it. I know we don't talk a lot of soccer here, but it's going to be a lot of fun. And even if even if you're not a fan of one of these countries, there are some really impressive players that are going to be there. Mo Salah, Ronaldo, of course, Neymar, and a number of others, Messi. So just enjoy it if you are going to, and have some fun. Don't just push it aside just because the U.S. isn't in there. This is the fun part about sports, and this is what makes it so great. So hope you guys enjoy the World Cup. Again, starts this weekend here in earnest, and should be a lot of fun as well. Our thanks to Roger Gonzalez. When we return, we'll have your guys' listener questions as well, as a quick little look at one of... It just bothered me. It embarrassed me as a fan. It embarrassed the sport, and really kind of almost insulted the fans. And I'll get to that coming up. Last segment on the way. You're on Press Row.
This is Daniel Poppy, host of How to Write Good here on Public House Media. I just want to thank you for listening to the following broadcast brought to you by Public House Media. Once you're done with this episode, I hope that you'll come check out my show, How to Write Good, the writing show that is not about writing. A new show of How to Write Good comes out every Wednesday, so don't forget to subscribe on iTunes so you never miss an episode of How to Write Good. Again, thanks for checking out the following broadcast on Public House Media.
Want to be part of the show? Go to Facebook and search Press Row Podcast Public House Media, or find us on Twitter and Instagram at Press Row PHM. You can also email the program, pressrowphm@gmail.com. This is Press Row with Christian Heimall, a Public House Media podcast.
Last few minutes of the show here this week, June 14th, 2018. Christian Heimall here with you on the Public House Media Network. As always, you can find us on Apple Podcasts, Google Play, iHeartRadio, Spreaker.com, Stitcher.com, TuneIn Radio, or thephmedia.com. Just search for Press Row by Public House Media, and you will find us. Get to your listener questions as we do every week. You can submit them throughout the week. Doesn't have to be for the show. It can be just, something pops into your head you want to ask, go right on ahead. Twitter and Instagram at PressRowPHM. You can find us on Facebook, Press Row by Public House Media, or email the show, pressrowphm@gmail.com. Find me on Twitter as well, at Chris Heimall, ChrisHeimall. A couple of questions here for you. Number one, let's get right to Norm in Vermont. Do you think LeBron James would actually go to Boston if asked? Look, the Celtics don't have the cap space to get him, number one. So they'd have to make trades. So it's not necessarily asking LeBron. I mean, other than, if the trade would be okay. Who knows? But I don't know if he would because, again, like I said in the first segment, it's part of depleting the roster that he'd be going to. He would have, of course, Terry Rozier, Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum. The Celtics would have to make sure they don't sign Marcus Smart back. They'd have to probably trade away Gordon Hayward to be able to match salaries because Hayward's set to make $31 million this coming year. Basically, you trade Hayward, Marcus Morris, and maybe that first rounder to Cleveland to get LeBron. And then if Kyrie's going to be annoyed as all hell, so you probably got to get rid of Kyrie also and find something to do. Maybe you trade him to New York, and maybe that's where this 3-team deal works out, where Kyrie goes to New York, Gordon Hayward and a draft pick go to Cleveland, and LeBron comes to Boston. Maybe that's how it works out, but I don't think Celtics fans would like it. I don't think Danny Ainge is even considering it. That's why I don't even look at it as a true possibility. I don't. It really doesn't look to me as though something that could legitimately happen. Just from a money standpoint, he won't make as much, LeBron. From a talent standpoint, the Celtics would be much more talented and would probably be the favorites, depending on what Kevin Durant does or Draymond Green does in Golden State. But he depletes the talent still. You don't have Gordon Hayward, and I think I just don't think Danny Ainge is that kind of person. I mean, listen, it wouldn't be the worst thing he's ever done from a trading standpoint. I mean, he did just ship Isaiah Thomas out of there and basically throw him to the curb after a tremendous output with his hip a couple of years ago. But I just don't. I don't see it. I don't see it. I really don't, because you'd have to get rid of Marcus Morris, probably Gordon Hayward, probably Kyrie Irving. Everything you did last summer you would undo if you were the Celtics. So I don't think LeBron ends up in Boston. I just don't. It makes very little to no sense for me for that to happen. So sorry, it just doesn't make sense to me. Max in Maryland, do you agree with the comments out this week about Bryce Harper from one National League executive? I don't. If you didn't see the story, go check it out. There's an anonymous National League executive who told FanRag Sports that Bryce Harper is overrated and a selfish, losing player. He said the executive told FanRag Sports, if he gets more than 10 years, $300 million, I'd be surprised. I would not give him 10 years, period. Certainly not at that average annual value. He's just not worth it. He's a selfish, losing player. I can't say I agree with that, to be 100% honest. Harper leading the National League in home runs and OPS. He has struggled. His batting average, he is kind of an all-or-nothing guy. Hits home runs or strikes out a lot. Very talented, incredible wealth of talent. It's not even, I don't think he's worth $300 million because I don't think anybody's worth that amount of money. And I'm sorry, but unless your batting average is going to be north of 285 with your league-leading home runs and RBIs, no. To me, the best player in the game is still Mike Trout, and he's not even worth $400 million, like they're saying Bryce Harper could potentially get. But I do not agree with coming out and calling someone a selfish losing player. Mike Rizzo, the Nationals GM, did a great job jumping out. First of all, the premise is entirely wrong, he told the Washington Post. Bryce Harper's a winner. He's been a winner his whole life. Rookie of the Year, 5-time All-Star, MVP. He's won more games since he's been called up to the big leagues than any player in the major leagues. So how is that a loser? I agree 100% with that. And I really do agree that of what he said, that these anonymous quotes from these unnamed sources, like a National League executive, it's cowardly and it's gutless. 100%. If you're going to make these kind of comments and you're not going to do it to someone's face, don't say it. Like, this is my one issue. Look, I've got sources, and I've got sources that were telling me yesterday that the noise about LeBron hates Houston as a city is complete BS. Those are people who have said heard it from LeBron James' mouth, that never heard that at all. So I'm not going to give up those sources because that would ruin their ability to be sources, basically. So, but you can't do stuff like that. Like, that's just, it's wrong to defame players like that. I don't know if Bryce Harper is a selfish loser, is a losing player. He hasn't won anything, a couple division titles. Yes, he's been an MVP. Yes, he's been an All-Star. But again, the MLB All-Star is basically a vote for Homecoming King. But it's just, it's really sad to see something like that because baseball needs its stars. Bryce Harper is one of them. I don't think he's not worth $300 million. He's not, in my opinion, he's probably the third best outfielder in the game right now behind Mike Trout and Mookie Betts. Aaron Judge is even probably closing in, being better than that. But who knows? It's one of those things that we'll just have to wait and find out and see exactly what it all happens. But I am very disappointed in the fact that a National League executive would say something like that. To me, it sounds like someone who's upset they didn't get Bryce Harper. But that's another story for another day. So appreciate that question there. And then last one here, Mike on Long Island. Who do you have winning the U.S. Open at Shinnecock this year? It starts today. A lot of people are picking Dustin Johnson. I like that pick. He is the world number one. He's one of the coolest dudes on tour. And I don't mean in terms of like you want to hang out with him. I do want to hang out with him. Would love to play golf with Dustin Johnson. But from a demeanor standpoint, he's very low-key, laid-back kind of guy. I know nobody's ever won the U.S. Open a week after winning, which he just did this past weekend at the FedEx St. Jude Classic. But he's the type of guy who could. The way he hits the ball at Shinnecock is one of those places where you got to hit it straight, you got to hit it far. DJ can do that, so can Rory McIlroy. I like Rory, even though I think he's still got some things he needs to figure out a little bit. But I would say my top three are going to be Dustin Johnson, Rory, and Jason Day. Jason Day is another one of those big hitters. Leading the PGA Tour in strokes gained putting. Very good putter as well. So, if your long game and your short game are good at Shinnecock, you're going to be talented enough to be able to possibly win it. So, I'll go DJ this weekend, but it'll be a lot of fun. It's one of my favorite tournaments to watch, and Shinnecock is a great place for it. Great place to have it here. As always, appreciate your guys' questions every single week. You can check us out, Twitter and Instagram at PressRowPHM. You can find us on Facebook, Press Row by Public House Media. Email the show, pressrowphm@gmail.com. Find me on Twitter as well, at Chris Heimall, ChrisHeimall. One quick thing I want to mention, because it's really been burning me up all week, and I mentioned it at the end of the conversation with Roger Gonzalez prior to break. It insulted me as a fan, and that is what the UFC has done this week. The UFC 225 was a really fun pay-per-view. The last three fights were great. Colby Covington was tremendous. Forrest Whitaker was great. Holly Holm was beyond impressive. CM Punk, Phil Brooks looked terrible. It was a joke. It was an embarrassment for that to be the first fight on that pay-per-view. And it really kind of set the tone for, and kind of ruined the entire night of what should have been a really good card. And I'm really glad and hopeful that Dana White said said that he should call it a wrap. You should call it a wrap for him. Don't let him back in. It was an absolute embarrassment to watch, and it felt insulting as a fan that we were put through that. And then, turns out on Wednesday, Dana White goes and offers a UFC contract to Greg Hardy, the guy who somehow, despite video and photographic evidence of all these guns and the intimidation of women and domestic abuse and all that stuff, is going to be paid to fight. It's a bad look for the UFC, in my opinion. It's a really bad look and kind of embarrassing, if you ask me. And it almost insults us as MMA fans when you see stuff like that. I understand. Look, his knockout was impressive, 57 seconds. It was great in that little Tuesday night series. It was a really technically sound knockout. But you're going to put those kind of guys out there as the face of your sport and your organization. It's callous. It's bad, and I just can't get behind it. And it really did bother me, insulted me as a fan, kind of turned me off to the idea of watching for a little bit. I mean, the whole Conor McGregor thing really got me upset, the fact that he's still allowed to be in the UFC despite acting like a child. You want to be considered legitimate, you got to run it legitimately. And it's just one of my biggest issues with the UFC right now. Between CM Punk, what we saw on Saturday night, this Greg Hardy contract, it's becoming more and more difficult for me to be a true fan of MMA. But I hope it all changes because I love watching it. I really, really do. Just like I love you guys listening and supporting us as always. Don't forget to subscribe, rate, review, Apple Podcasts, Google Play, iHeartRadio, Spreaker.com, Stitcher.com, TuneIn Radio, and of course, thephmedia.com. Big thanks to Roger Gonzalez, CBS Sports, for joining us talking about the World Cup. I'm Christian Heimall, and until next week, we will see you guys on Press Row as part of the Public House Media Network.